Alrighty, I actually wasn't that interested in doing a video today because I don't know, life. I just woke up late and not been a very good boy today, but I spent a good amount of time talking to one of my best friends from university who means a lot to me. And so I think that's a very positive thing. I will say I'm really leaning into the positives at the moment rather than berating myself for the negatives. So, rather than like playing a video game or scrolling social media, I was interacting with someone, although it was on FaceTime, it is what it is, and it feels good. It feels good to talk to people. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. That's one of the things it's taken me so long to figure out, by the way. I spent so much of my life spending time thinking about how much value I was bringing to the table. And in some ways, these videos are helping as well because I just talk about whatever I want. And it's not until I get comments and stuff and feedback where I realize that for some people I'm bringing some type of value. And or like the value is just being here and just turning up or just using my voice or just being me. That old saying, like, you are enough. That's sort of something which I've been grappling with my whole life, which a lot of people grapple with, right? Is like, am I enough? Have I achieved enough? You can frame it in one way, which is like has to do with achievements. But you can also frame it in the other way, which is like, am I just there? Like, is me being here enough? Perhaps being here for my friends, perhaps being around people and having some interacting with people and just being part of people's lives and what have you. Anyway, that's a really deep and philosophical conversation. I'm not going to dive into that right now. I think what I decided to dive into was moments in time. Now, I have no idea where this is going to go, I must admit, and I don't know how much time I've wasted trying to get to the subject, which is always the way. My videos, basically, of what I recognize watching my videos back, is like the first half is kind of like world building, like when you watch a TV series and there's the world building bit and you're like, and then halfway through there'll be some gold. Well, I think there is some gold compared to the rest of it anyway. But what I can't find this bloody timer, so kind of silly starting it now, but there we go. Let's say I've wasted 3 minutes, maybe. So I want to talk about moments in time. So life is not linear, we know that, right? And I've talked a lot about like life not being this kind of straight line that goes like this. Now, some people can live that life if they stick to the specific milestones that they're supposed to meet, that if they don't come up against anything that particularly throws that off for them. And I actually did kind of experience that in the first part of my life up until sort of mid-30s, I want to say. And then it sort of went up and down, and a lot of that was my making. I wanted it that way. I kind of got bored, and deep down I'm a bit of a risk taker. I know that's true about me. I know that's true. I don't feel alive with a little risk here and there. And sometimes what other people would probably call a big risk. I've had plenty of times where people have come up to me and said, "Oh, I can't believe you did X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, and to me, it's like not the risk, whereas there's something else I'm focused on, which is the risk in my mind, but nobody spots it. So, there's that interesting idea of there being different versions of you, right? There's the version of you that you think is you. There's the version of you that every single other person that you interact with sees. And those are all different versions of you. And there's no correct one, I don't think. I don't think the version that you think you are is correct. It's probably the one which is it's probably the one that's off the most. And then there's the versions of you that other people see, which, you know, is a difficult thing to come to terms with, because sometimes they see you as really great and, you know, sort of unstoppable and what have you, and ingenious or whatever, right? I'm not talking about me specifically. I'm just saying, like, there people see you in a certain light, or maybe people see you in a negative light, in which case it's also kind of bollocks, you know. It's a viewpoint. I want to talk about moments in life a little bit, as a sort of, I don't know if it's a philosophy on life or not, but it's a nice way of thinking about life. And that is well, for one, when you're down or when you're up, it may not last forever, right? So, but there are moments in time. And one of the things that I've done throughout my life is sort of collect these moments, particularly when I feel like I've completed them, you know, like a video game. And it's probably not the best way to go about life, thinking of it as, because sometimes I think I've thought of life as a checklist, right? Which could be the title of this video. Life is not a checklist, right? So when I achieved success and I knew that everyone knew, you know, oh, you're the success story right now. You have been successful. You are successful. Suddenly that wasn't so appealing. It was like, tick, that's done. Now let me go do something else. And I wouldn't say that's the safest way to go about life. Yeah, it's interesting. And like, this is going to sound really cringy. This is going to sound super cringy. But like, maybe when you find a partner, someone that maybe you don't go out with them forever. Maybe they're the love of your life, or maybe they're the best person that you've ever slept with, or the most beautiful person you've ever hooked up with. I know men can certainly relate, because look, women are the more beautiful species, right? I know men can certainly be very excited at the prospect of hooking up with a really hot girl, right? And I'll never forget, for instance, having a moment in my life. This is cringy, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it is also, I think, real. But I'll never forget, like, it was mid 30s ish when I was dating a girl who was, all the girls I dated were out of my league, right? But like, I was in a successful position in life, and that probably had a lot to do with it, right? But there was this one girl that I was dating, and I just remember lying next to her in bed and thinking, and this is the cringy part, right? I remember thinking back to my university days and having posters up on my wall, right? Like FHM and all that, like back in, like, that's how old I am. But posters up on my wall of these girls, these women, these models or actresses or whatever, right? Thinking, oh my God, looking at that beauty standard and going, that's amazing. And then I remember lying next to this girl going, well, she could easily be up on that wall. And that for me was like another check, you know, like, okay, well, I've done that. And that's a really strange way to think. I think that's a really strange way to think. Because then I was like, okay, well, that's done. Now what? What's next? Because I never really had the traditional mindset of, you know, get married, have kids, all that stuff. And I kind of wish I did now, because when a man reaches like his midlife, I think Jimmy Carr, and I will probably repeat this in many videos, but Jimmy Carr said this wonderful thing I saw the other day where he said he thought he'd gained the system, right, by reaching his mid-40s. Like before his mid-40s, he thought, yeah, I've gained the system because I'm not going to have kids, I'm not going to get married, and all this, I can do what I want whenever I want. And that's true, I can do what I want whenever I want in a way, but I also need money to do it. But there was a time when I could do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted, type of thing. But in his clip, he says he realized that he wasn't happy, right? And this was like his mid-40s, I think. And he said, oh, and he was looking at his friends who've got kids and all that stuff. And he was like, oh, I just realized, you know, if you're the casino was the metaphor, but I've just realized I'm at the really low stakes table. Like, this is meaningless. I'm not playing at the high stakes table. Where, you know, and my interpretation of that is the high stakes table gives you a reason to get up in the morning. The high stakes table is the next stage of life. You know, having a child, I've been told, I don't have a child, but I've been told that is probably one of the biggest moments, probably the biggest moment you can ever have in your life, is to suddenly bring this child into the world that you have to care for, bring up and all that sort of stuff. So whilst this video started off about talking about moments in time, I have all these moments in time that I have stored away in my head, and it's good. So there's a jumbled message here, but the moments in time is that if you did it, if it happened, I think have gratitude. This is how I'm trying to, you know, I'm talking to myself a lot in these videos, by the way, but I think have gratitude that you've had those moments. Some people don't get to see any of those moments, you know? Some people aren't very self-aware either. But you've had those moments, and they are moments in time. And whilst they don't last forever, you've been there and you've had those moments, whether it be success in a passion, whether it be success in profession, whether it be a really happy part of your life, success with family, whether it be success at dating, you know, whatever, a successful player, or maybe even just something like a success in playing the most beautiful video game that was ever created. Elden Ring. Everyone knows that. No, I'm kidding, actually. I should do a video on that, actually, because I've been around for a long time. I could give you my top 10 video games for sure. I don't know if this video makes any sense, but I think I might put it out anyway, because it's a bit meandering. And I guess there's two things that I would say. One is, don't treat life as though it's a checklist. You don't always have to move on once you've completed something. You can follow a more traditional path. You can stay in that place for a bit longer and maybe connect it to something else which takes you to a place you want to be. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, if that resonates at all, but this is an interesting experiment in me trying to get across some of my inner thoughts. And then I would say the second thing is, like, if there are moments that you're happy about, that you are proud of, I think you should have gratitude for those moments. Sometimes, you know, people say don't look back, but like, I think it's worth sometimes feeling gratitude. Gratitude's huge, right? And I also think gratitude can be a little bit difficult thing to authentically tap into. And the way I do that, I think, is by revisiting moments in what I call moments in time. They're not going to last forever, but I'm glad they happened. Anyway, signing out until tomorrow.